many people I know are actually innately wishing for someone to tell them, like, do you want to become a manager? Are you ready for it? You should go ask for it.
Yeah,
like,
go
this
and
is
ask
what I
for
want.
it. Like, and then like I feel whenever I tell people like go and ask for what you want, there's another phrase which I like to add to it, like is be deserving of what you ask for.
Your manager can't read your mind, so like you have to talk about it really early on, what your goals are, so there's a plan.
If it's a goal, you actually work hard towards, so you would eventually make it a reality, and you know that you are deserving.
I have a network early in my career, so I didn't get it. The last few jobs, that's like what it's all about. It is so key.
A lot happens over network because you know somebody, they moved to another role, your previous manager moved to a different company and he's hiring now. A lot happens over relationships. So that is another thing that we all should pay, like attention to.
I also think people don't have to wait to become a manager to act like a leader.
That is so true.
Right?
So I like to differentiate between these two things, being a manager versus being a leader. We're talking about managing a team of people, like go through dotted lines. But when you talk about a leader, now, anybody can be a leader, right? One doesn't have to wait for an official title to start leading things. See something that's broken on the team, go ahead and fix it. If you see some problems, take charge of it, right? That's how you develop more leadership skills.
Welcome back to another episode of Data Neighbors. Today, Shravi and I are chatting with Manisha, leader in data science at Google. Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show, Manisha.
So yeah, thanks a lot, Shravya and Sean, for having me here. Looking forward to sharing all the amazing nuggets of information here.
Yeah, me too. I think we got a lot of different topics we can cover today. To kick it off, you've had this incredible career. You're a data science leader at Google. You've founded PrepVector, which is a platform to empower other people in their careers. So I just kind of love to start by unpacking what you've found most important in building a long-term, impactful career in data science, and maybe more specifically for someone who wants to aspire to a leadership role in that space. What are the sort of habits or behaviors or lessons that have really been influential for you over your career?
So I guess you asked me like two questions here. One would more be like of building a long-term career, and then second, more of the leadership. So let me talk about the first one when it comes to building a long-term career in data science. Now, there are a couple of different things that come to mind. First, I think data science has just been like evolving over the years a lot. So I started in data science maybe like 12 years ago, and it has changed so much. Like at that time, it was not even called data science, I guess. Like everybody called it analytics, and they were like, quite heavy on statistics. So much has happened since then. So I feel one of the things is just to embrace learning, and then so just kind of make it a little bit of, habit. You try to absorb more information that comes your way. So if you see somebody who's really good at a few things, maybe reach out and say hi and try to learn from them. Now, it's an evolving domain, so that's one. Second, I believe, building relationships is really important too. So a lot that happens in people's career, if you look at the long term of it, not just the short term, because it's difficult to find patterns in short term. So, but over long term, when you see a lot happens over network because you know somebody, they moved to another role, your previous manager moved to a different company and he's hiring now. So I think a lot happens over relationships. I would say that is another thing that we all should pay, attention to. The third one that I would say is just be extremely good at something. Like there is no workaround the core job that you have. Yeah. So whether it's come to building machine learning models or running experiments or writing programs, so you really have to be good at those things. And then the other things can add layers on top of it.
So basically, you're talking about to excel in data science today, according to you, the three things, right? The first one, learning, making sure you keep learning whatever, all different areas of data science, especially data science, because it's been evolving from, like you said, analytics to data science, ML and the statistics and all of those things. Now AI, right? We've been evolving. So learning is number one. And number two is network. And number three is just be great at what you're doing, right? Give your best so that people remember your work.
Yeah, you pretty much summarized it pretty well, Shravya. So yeah, those would be the three things I would say that, if you do these three things right, there's a very high probability that you will have a very successful long-term data science career. And now I'm talking like a data scientist in terms of probabilities. But
Yeah. The network thing is something I did not understand for so long too. And it was I definitely heard people would say, your network, grow it. And then probably because I didn't have a network early in my career, so I didn't get it. But now the last few jobs, that's what it's all about. It is so key.
And another thing I want to highlight is the third one that you talked about, which is being good at something. I really think your network kind of depends on that. If you're really good at what you're doing, people around you are going to remember you. Then they make sure that they stay connected. And instead of, you're trying to reach out and they're like, I'm not sure. I don't know who you are. I don't know what type of... Imagine you do really great work. Then obviously people are going to remember you. And when you reach out to them, they're like, yeah, this person, right?
So let's compare these two scenarios where somebody's really good at the job, and then they reach out to you and say, hey, Shravya, we worked together at the last company. I'm looking for a role. You are just much more likely to have them as compared to somebody who was not that great at what they did. So just comparing these two scenarios, it kind of seems intuitive. But most people don't really think about it that way.
Yeah. I never thought about it until recently. Yeah. I've been doing content creation on LinkedIn, and it's been amazing for networking, right? I actually met people like you and, Siddharth, your business partner in PrepVector, and, all those people. But I keep understanding, if I put in my heart, I try to be as good at it as I can with my time. And that's the reason people remember. There've been so many people with even bigger following, actually pretty amazing people. They reached out to me and I'm like, wow, this happens when we, give our best at something and hopefully be good at it, right? So it's like a loop.
And then getting to the second question, which you asked me more on the leadership side of things. So if somebody, is looking to go, get into more of a leadership position, you have to be good at your role. There's just no work around that. But there are a few other, maybe nuggets which I can provide. So first, it's just, maybe understanding yourself better as a person. So what kind of a leader are you? What are your core values? What's your leadership style? And everybody likes to talk about, how somebody else should be, how my manager should be, how my skip should be, how the CEO should be. But nobody talks about how I should be, right? So what kind of a person I am, I think that that is really important. If you are trying to get into more of a leadership role, so we need to understand what is my authentic values. So the other thing is that when a lot of people transition from being an IC to a manager, they kind of lose that touch. So being hands-on. But in general, where I say the industry is heading towards is more of a hands-on managers. So you still need to be a manager, so doing all the good stuff. But at the same time, you should still be in touch with all the more technical, parts of the role too. So, also think about the team. When you're hiring a lot of people on your team, when you're working closely with them, they don't want to work with somebody who doesn't understand the work or has kind of lost touch with the work, right? So just be technical, we don't have to really work hands-on every day, but at least being able to understand what the team is working on or how much time certain things take. Those things are really important. I would say those would be the two major things. But also learn to put yourself out there. When you talk to a lot of people, when you talk to leaders at your companies, your managers' peers, you get to know a lot about the business priorities, right? And that's when you start shaping your own team. So for example, I, talk to my manager, my skip. I also talk to my manager's peers. Sometimes I try to get hold of my skip's peers if I can, maybe not always. So just talking to them gives you so much more insight. If there are senior ICs or lead ICs who are not already doing that, I highly suggest that they start expanding the realm of their work, and then just go out and reach out to people, understand what the business priorities are, what their OKRs are, what are they working on, and then find some commonalities from there.
Yeah, that's the first thing I do whenever I'm joining a new job or transitioning to a new team or org is just talk to as many people as possible, even 15-minute things, and just kind of try to understand just get to know people on a personal level, but also like try to understand like where's everyone's head at, like what goal does everyone have, and who's like working towards the same goal and who might not be. It's hard to provide value if you don't understand what value people are looking for.
Right.
But I also know like people who want to just get in there and get hands on with the data right away and kind of skip that part.
Yeah.
So going deeper into this, Manisha, so do you think people should start thinking about what do they want to become like few years from now? Or another question around it is that I also think people don't have to wait to become a manager to act like a leader.
That is so true.
Right? So yeah, would love to know your thoughts. Yeah.
So I like to differentiate between these two things, being a manager versus being a leader, two different things. Because when we are talking about a manager, we're talking about managing a team of people. So there are people reporting into you, maybe directly, like or through dotted lines. But when you talk about a leader, so now anybody can be a leader, right? And then one doesn't have to wait for an official title to start leading things. See something that's broken on the team, go ahead and fix it. If you see some problems, take charge of it, right? So that's how you develop more leadership skills. But a manager is more of a title, slightly obviously different responsibilities too, but these can have a very significant overlap. There can also be ICs, which are great leaders, and a lot of them are expected to lead things. So I just want to make sure that people that are listening to this podcast truly understand that you don't have to be a manager to start acting like a leader.
Exactly. So thank you so much. So that's what I believe in too. And you could actually be a leader being an intern. You could be a leader just starting out in a company. You could lead things technically. You could lead things that are non-technical where you talk about probably, I don't know, communication or just, teamwork. You basically probably even as simple as getting your team of 30 data scientists a great dinner place and making sure if people vote for the right dinner place and just having that, like I'm telling, start somewhere and you basically get to understand how is it to go from this place to actually having people, that you manage. So being a data science manager, that's been my journey too. And to be honest, I didn't know about it when I started off as like an intern at Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that I could actually show up as a leader today and do all these things and still be considered and actually be gaining a lot of, inner wisdom about how to communicate, how to make sure I get hold of people without actually having the influence over them, right? What is it? Like you're not their like boss, but you make sure that you actually get them to do what you want them to do sort of a thing. And you start really small, right?
Yeah. So when I started my career, I don't think I knew this thing either. Like, I don't think most of us know. So we were just like kind of waiting for things to happen, waiting for somebody else to take the lead and then, come and give us the work. But over time, then you realize that, identifying opportunity is not just somebody else's job. It's like your job because it's your career at the end of the day.
Totally. And we want people who are listening to actually understand this, right?
In your experience, have you seen your reports or other team members kind of like raise their hands in terms of like, I want to go into like a leadership? Have you seen like certain qualities where you found like, oh, this person would probably be a great leader and support them? Or what's that look like?
So I feel like leaders don't have to wait to start leading, like we were just talking about it. So you already start seeing those behaviors and traits in small little ways. People can take control of even writing a meeting agenda, as simple as that, right? So and then they just become like the host of that meeting without even anybody just assigning that responsibility to them, right? People start writing documentation around things which they have developed. People start to follow up more proactively, like on their projects. Like if some data has not come in their way, then they start following up with their stakeholders more. So you start seeing this subtle trait. So which is, I think, one of the key signals The other thing is also direct feedback, which you get from other people on the team, as well as from other cross-functional partners. So they would also give you a lot of feedback about how this person is. So if this person is, much more proactive, then that's a very good sign that they can be a great leader. That is the other one. And of course, people show their interest. Some other things that also I've seen people do, is look out for opportunities for improvement. For example, there's a training program, and they might come and say, hey, I want to attend this particular program. So they can shadow a manager, which I also did a while back. I shadowed another person, which is a more formal program that you can enroll in. So I feel that people who really want to take their career to the next level, they start looking for these kind of initiatives. And so then they kind of raise their hand. Yeah, these are the kind of things which I want to continue doing. And these are the kind of things, roles which I want to pursue. So people actually start volunteering for it. So for it much more. And you would see some people naturally do that more than the others. You also kind of get a sense about it, I think from people's personalities. If you just talk to them, you can tell them that maybe this person is more inclined towards becoming a manager, or leading a team. Whereas this person would probably want to stay as an IC. And both of those are great tracks, just to be clear. So just to let the audience know that these are two parallel tracks, and one is not better than the other. It's two different tracks, and it depends on which one you want to go.
So I love that you brought this up about, having two tracks, an IC track and a manager track, right?
Yeah.
And for both of these, to be honest, so I want to ask this question. All the things that you told about getting into your leadership, how many of those intersect with actually getting promoted? It could be actually getting promoted into an IC track as well, right? I have a feeling they're pretty, interlinked. The qualities that you heard someone about leadership, about, writing agendas, documentation, proactiveness.
Yeah.
All of that to me is also the great qualities to just have as an employee to keep going high in your career.
Yeah. So some of these are just overlapping qualities. So as you go senior, whether it's an IC or whether you want to become a manager. So these are just great qualities to have in the first place. And if you don't have those, there is a chance that can delay your promotions, or you might take longer to get there, because these are qualities which people look for. Whereas if you go more for the manager route, where you have to formally manage teams, you have to be involved in other people's success much more. So what I call it is looking outwards than inwards. So as an IC, it's all about me. I want to get credit. I want to do this project. I want to be the center of attention. Then there's a manager where you have people reporting into you. So you are not just responsible for your success, you are responsible for other people's success as well. And that is highly correlated. If your team succeeds, you succeed, right? So you're kind of looking outwards, figuring out opportunities for other people rather than just you. So I feel that, whenever I coach people, this is what I tell them, that this is a major mindset shift. So if you are the kind of person who wants to look inwards, and then just focus on your own thing, then an IC path is great to pursue. But if you are the person who is really invested in other people's success, you love coaching them, you love to drive them, to important conversations, you like to give them credit, those kind of stuff, then you are probably better suited for taking up more managerial roles.
That's amazing. I love that. So inward versus outward. It's three words, and then you understand the concept of IC versus manager. Yeah. But to be honest, I think even an IC, as you get into this IC6, IC7, I think mentorship also gets important. Making sure. But I would say that shift happens slightly later in IC world. IC versus manager. Manager, it's basic. It's a P0 requirement that you need to care about mentorship and coaching as the number one basic requirement. But for ICs, probably as you ascend the ladder, that importance keeps increasing. But you could be a great, you just focus on yourself and do great work and still ascend.
Yeah.
But probably if you add that, you can become even better IC.
So, right. But, I think that's a great point. For an IC, it's really good to have quality. For a manager, it's a basic skill. You got to have that.
Yes.
Another thing is that maybe coaching is important for both.
Yes.
So, but then performance management, is not necessary. So performance management is only done by the managers. Also, being able to, like I said, figure out opportunities for other people, being invested in other people's growth is much more for like a manager role as compared to an IC role. Like an IC can really survive if he's driving the business really well, like bringing in a lot of like business and impact for the company. Like an IC can really survive and like climb the ladder. But if a manager is not looking outwards, then it's really hard for them to just be a manager.
I agree. I mean, I think it'll be great to actually know your story as well to get into management. I can talk about mine to start with. I mean, I could do a whole other podcast on it, but let me just keep it simple. First thing I think is the most important thing is figuring out what you want to be. Do you want to get into IC? Do you want to get into management? And if yes or no, why? You need to have a strong reason for that. For me, the most interesting thing was I didn't believe in myself that I could actually, be a good manager. Not wanting to become a manager came from the fact that I was not sure about if I would be a good manager. And there was a lot of like understanding myself, my skill set, and, working with myself to understand, oh no, I mean, I should try. Like it'll happen if it'll happen or if not, right? So a lot of internal work to understand what I want and why I want happened. And the value system that you've pointed out is the most important thing that helped me get to that decision, right? What are my values? What do I want to bring into this, like, into my career? How do I want my professional life to be? And all of that made me get into the decision. And once I got there, the first thing that I did was actually ask for it, right? When you go ask for it, you would know. Then people are like, no, I can't give you because of this, this, and this. Then you go work on it. It could be as simple as that. So many people I know are actually innately wishing for someone to tell them, like, do you want to become a manager? Or are you ready for it? Rather, and they don't even think about it because they don't see an opportunity. Irrespective of you seeing an opportunity or not, you should go ask for it.
Yeah,
like,
go
this
and
is
ask
what I
for
want.
it. Like, and then like I feel whenever I tell people like go and ask for what you want, there's another phrase which I like to add to it, like is be deserving of what you ask for. So you ask for what you want, but at the same time make sure that you're putting in the work to make yourself deserving of it, right? Otherwise the opportunities may not come that way, like, or that might just seem like a far-fetched goal. Like it's a dream rather than a goal. So if it's a goal, you actually work hard towards it, like, and then you would eventually make it a reality, and you know that you are deserving of that goal.
Absolutely. I love that. I totally love that. So basically, that's what I tried to do. So my journey was I went and asked for it, understood what I need to develop, tried to work on it, developed it. I did the work without actually having the title. Then with the title. So that's, so you basically do the work. All that's missing is the title. Then it's easy to get the title because there's a big case for people, for your manager to, to build a case for you to actually get promoted, whatever it is, right? And then you do really well there and do the work probably of the next level in your current role, and then ask for it again. Like, I need the next level, right? So it's basically being really good at it and asking for more, really good at it and asking for more. So that was my journey. I'd love to know what your journey was, Manisha. Like, how did you get there?
For me, I think it was more, more organic. Like it happened because I think the team was expanded. They wanted to have somebody who can take on the role. But having said that, like I do want to mention like a particular point. My experience with coaching people came really early in my career. So I knew that I enjoy coaching people. And then some people started reporting into me through like dotted lines and stuff. But that came in later, it was more organic. So it was not like a sudden shift for me, like, even though it was organic, this team was expanding and stuff. But at the same time, like, I had already displayed some of those qualities. Like, I was already coaching people, like, and the opportunity to coach people really came in very, very early in my career. I'm very grateful for that opportunity. Like, I was just, I think 1 year experience when the company I was working with at that point, they hired a bunch of new grads. So there was like a whole bunch of new grads who were coming in, like, and they needed people to coach them. So I just like raised my hand for it. So I didn't know like I would enjoy it so much. And then when I actually did that, I was like, oh, I don't like it. Like I took it very seriously because I wanted them to get on board very quickly. Like I wanted them to start delivering results. I wanted them to become good data scientists. So I started doing that a lot. Teaching and mentoring part was already there, and then the shift happened a little bit more organically, like as the team was expanding and they wanted people to start leading.
It's amazing. So you basically said a very important point. If you are someone, if there are data scientists listening to this, to be honest, this is something even beyond role, right? You could probably be a software engineer. You could probably be a data analyst, like whatever your role is. If you see people like, with a lower level or, just grads or someone who is slightly lesser experienced than you, who needs some help, then go for it. And try it out and see how much you'd enjoy it, and then decide if management is your path, right? Or if you already know you want to become a manager, then this is your route. Try to start coaching, try to start mentoring people with lesser experience than you. And then you could get into probably the next opportunity. Even if it doesn't organically happen to you, like Manisha probably was really good at it and people wanted her to be a manager. You could, see the opportunity and, have a deserving case, like she already said, that, hey, I already am doing it. All I need is probably to just officially have them under me, right?
Right.
And things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I do want to mention, because you actually brought up a really good point, Stravya, that you start displaying the skills before, and then promotions happen later. Such an important point to understand, because promotions are always a lagging indicator.
Yeah.
So when you are promoted, by that time, you're already displaying all the amazing qualities that are required for that next level. When people see that you are really good at coaching people, onboarding people, helping them out. You are also a very, centered person. I think a lot of people don't talk about this, but I feel it's an important point. You have to be very centered as a manager, because you are continuously talking and engaging with a lot of people, and a lot of people might be going through their own things. Some of the people might want to get promoted, some others may not. So you are constantly interacting with a lot of people. So if you are really centered, so people notice that, right? People notice that in meetings, when interacting with you, you're a very calm person. You take your decisions rationally, and then you take your time to respond to things and stuff like that. So these little things here and there, they actually leave a lasting impact. So once you are already displaying these behaviors, then the opportunities start coming your way much more, as compared to not having those qualities and then just waiting for the opportunity. That's something that happens a lot.
Exactly. And another way to bridge the gap that I want to keep emphasizing is asking for it, right? There's so many people that I've managed, Manisha and Sean knows about them too, is that I don't think there are very, very less people. I would say 5% maybe who actually ask for things.
Yeah.
Especially women. Women don't even do that.
That is true.
Right? They don't even, it's not that they're content. They probably are content to some extent, but they'd probably be wishing something happens magically, or someone looks at their effort. I'm working hard. I'm going to get an opportunity. But guess what? If there is another person who is showing up and talking and networking and, doing the same things as you, but actually doing the work of asking for it, you'd obviously want to give someone who wants it, rather than you not knowing that does this person even want it or not. Right?
Yeah.
Your manager can't read your mind, so you have to do that stuff, but you have to talk about it really early on, what your goals are. So there's a whole plan. I've talked about this on other podcasts, but I've missed out on promotions earlier in my career where, when I was at PwC, everyone gets promoted on the same day in June. It's called promotion day. There's a big party. But I remember 1 year, I had 5 out of 5 on all of my reviews, and I was definitely I've been at the next level for next year. And then promotion day came around. And I was like, so am I going to get promotion? And the partner was like, oh, if you wanted to get promoted, you needed to tell me that 6 months ago, because we have to do all this stuff on the back end, slotting you in and talking to the right people. And then so later on in my career, I'm like, hey, I want to go for promotion next year, even a year out. And then my manager can tell me, you need to work on these things, or even if you're good, okay, we need to talk to these people. We need to get you on projects that interact with them. But otherwise, managers were thinking about a bunch of other stuff too. So
that happened with me as well. I was skipped for promotion once when I was really expecting it, because I delivered such amazing work. So I thought, my work speaks for itself.
Yeah.
So I would get promoted. That did happen. So I have a close friend of mine, and I went to him and I was kind of in tears, and I was like, I don't know, I was expecting this promotion and I have done everything that I think I was supposed to do. And he was like, so did you tell this to your manager early on? And I was like, I'm doing all the great work. Like, and then he was like, he told me something and he said, Manisha, remember, the crying baby gets the most attention. So if you are not going and talking about it,
Yeah.
I love your lines, Manisha.
Thinking about it.
Crying baby gets the most attention. I love this line. Yeah, totally.
So he was like, if you're just out there sitting in a corner, like, and not speaking up, don't expect people are thinking about you when you go and put yourself out there, and when you ask for what you want and you put your needs and desires, like, and then you work towards them. Like I said, like, ask for what you want, but at the same time, be deserving of it as well. When you put in the work, so when you actually put in that work, like, and then you ask for it, things happen, right? So yeah, like, I learned this like a couple of years in my career too, and I am sure that this is something that happens with a lot of people too.
Yeah. Hopefully this podcast, people don't have to learn the hard way like us.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I don't know if this is related, but we could probably talk about, but how do you hire people? So do you look for these qualities when you start hiring? So how does your hiring work?
Yeah. So yeah, it depends on the level of the hiring too. But let me just provide like some generic information. And again, so don't quote me on this because this is just like, like broad, like I'm going to make some sweeping strokes here. First is, I think, technical skills, which are just important, which, like I said, it's table stakes. You have to be good at, like all the data sciencey stuff, which includes statistics, machine learning, like A/B testing, like, or some of the things which are even specific to that role. You have to be good at your technical skills. So that's a given. So now things that can make you stand out, is more like, how do you structure problems and how do you deal with ambiguity? So you can be given a vague problem, and then you have to break it down. You have to bring more structure to it. You have to define a step-by-step clear plan of approaching that problem. So I feel that is important, and that is something that I've seen like a lot of companies look for, because they intentionally start with a vague problem, and then they break it down. So you have to break it down. The third thing, which is also important, is the culture fit. So whether you are a good person to work with in general, right? Like, do people like working with you? Like, is something that people overlook. So you should be somebody that people get along well. You should be somebody that is that is easy to collaborate with. You also give credits to other people. So like just culture fit in general. So these three, I would say, is what most companies look for. So the first, technical skills. Second, business acumen, and working through ambiguity. So third would be culture fit. Again, like I said, like broad strokes here. So, there might be a little bit nuances involved based on the company, or based on a specific role. But in general, I feel that these three are something that most of the companies will look for.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. I think for the third point, I think we had Gene, who is like director of Instacart on our podcast, and he was talking about if the interview went like you're already working with them, right?
Yeah.
And it was that easy. It's like, for me, that's a sign to hire this person.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Like, he should be so good and so easy that this person is so easy to talk to, and making it so that's your culture fit point, I think, right? Like a good way to look for that.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies try to assess culture fit, although in slightly different ways. But in general, I believe a lot of relationships really come down to it. Are you a good person to work with in general? So I believe that's what a lot of culture fit is about. So yeah, I totally love your point about having a conversation with the manager or with your interviewer rather than trying to treat it like an interview. So ask them questions, know about their business, and talk to them about the problem. If you are given a problem to work with, you can actually treat it like more of a brainstorming exercise. So you talk through your approach, ask them if it makes sense to them or not, and then work from there. So yeah, I would highly suggest that too.
People generally come up with this hierarchy when they come to interviews. Sometimes they treat the other person like someone who is supposed to give them something, right? But when you go in like that, you basically put a different atmosphere. You don't give the ease that you would get. You personally, like the interviewee, it's going to be so much more easier for you if it's more, you bring out the real side of you, right? And you bring out the real side of the other person too when you treat it like a conversation. And, it also shows up with confidence, like how confident you are as a person. I think too many things are related to that type of interview, I guess. Yeah.
I also feel you also have to make that judgment whether the team that you so you are about to join is a good team for you or not, So I don't think a lot of the people think about it the other way around. But you have to basically make that next move. So you have to think about whether, this is a product which I'm excited about working for. So whether I really want to work with this person who is interviewing me, because you will have to work with them, quite often. So just think about those points as well.
Absolutely. Another thing that I try to do in my interviews is I try to understand how much self-aware they are as a person. So like a basic question would be, how do they rate themselves on a certain skill?
Yeah.
Just looking at how the number is going to be from 1 to 10, totally, and how they've already performed in the interviews, if I know that information, or like just based on how they are, what their resume says, generally gives me a ton of information about how they feel, how they perceive themselves, right? And ideally, if I'm trying to hire someone, I want someone who is most coachable, right? You want someone who knows what their strengths are and knows what they need to improve upon and be ready to get coached on the weaknesses.
Right. And then I was curious, how do you really assess that? Let's say somebody says I'm a 10 on 10. So is that a good thing or a not so good thing?
Depends on how their project. So there's an impactful project that I ask them, right? It's one of the most basic questions everyone would be ready for. And how they answer my deeper level questions, right? When I ask them not just the first line, the second line and the third line question.
I see.
And how they answer that question totally makes me understand how in-depth of a knowledge they have in that area. And that combined with their 10 on 10, and I'm like, am I sure? Is this person really serious about what they're doing? There are a lot of people who actually quote their teammates' work as their work. And I get to that with my cross-questioning of their details. And it's pretty evident that this is not the work that's fully done by them. It's probably part of a big team, but they talk about it as fully something that they've done, right?
So I love that point. Although I do want to argue that, a lot of the projects are done as a team together. But then just letting the other person know that, this was my particular role in this larger project is helpful, right? Instead of just coding that entire thing as something I drove by myself.
In the similar vein, as we're talking about interviews and stuff, I want to get into your work with PrepVector a bit, helping data professionals and aspiring data professionals. Maybe just start, what's some of the common challenges you see your clients and users facing in their career journeys, and how are you kind of addressing those?
So in terms of the challenges people face, I would say that, so one common challenge which I've heard from a lot of people is that I keep applying to jobs, but I don't hear, I don't hear back from them. Something that I've seen people talk about over and over. And then one of the things I asked them is, what resume are you working with? And then most often than not, I realize that they are just working with the same resume for all the jobs. Kind of just, one single resume, which they are applying for a data scientist product role as well as a machine learning engineer role, and then maybe a data science manager role, IC role, everywhere. So that often doesn't work. So what I suggest instead is to have one base version of your resume, but then make tweaks to it as you apply. So it might only take a few minutes if you see a job that's really interesting to you. So, try to match that with your resume, and really see that if I were the hiring manager, would I call this person or not, right? So just do a little self-evaluation. Compare your resume with your JD, make sure that there's an overlap, and often there is an overlap. It's just about presenting that information in the right way. Some of the jobs might be more heavy, on A/B testing, and very good understanding of the product. But there might be some others which require a little bit of a domain expert. For example, let's say somebody that is looking for a person who has a lot of experience with trust and safety, right?
Right.
Whereas there can be a machine learning engineer kind of role as well, which people apply very often. So I would say have a base version of your resume. But before you apply for roles, make sure that you spend 10 minutes looking through the job description and making sure that the resume matches the JD. That is one of the struggles which I have seen very often. The other thing which I've also seen is that so people lack a lot of industry perspective. Like, and this is also something which I struggled with when I was also trying to move, is that there are so many courses and so many videos which talk about the theoretical aspects of it, right? For example, how to build a regression model. Like, this is something so basic, like maybe at this point everybody knows it, but like, how do you use that to drive business impact? So I feel that that industry perspective is missing. Like, and what people are expecting is that in the interview, maybe somebody would just ask, "Hey, tell me what is a linear regression," and then that doesn't happen, right? So you are given a business problem, and then you have to apply your data science concepts to that business problem to solve for it, and then show how you would measure impact. So that is where a lot of the people struggle with, because they have spent a lot of time really digging through industry case studies, maybe trying to understand the business. So what they have is a lot of theoretical knowledge.
Yeah.
So what I love to build, like in PrepVector, like, if you see, all of our offerings are very tailored for the industry. So that's all that we do. And this was, like I mentioned, this was one of my struggles too early in my career. So that's where I've drawn a lot of inspiration. I was also teaching at several universities, and I felt that they had kind of the same problem. Like, they would give a CSV file to work with. Here's a CSV file, go build the model. The best model is the winner. Like, and maybe you will then get promoted at the company. But like, that doesn't happen, right?
No.
So I
You're
felt
not
like
promoted on model accuracy. Definitely not.
True. That is true. So this was one of the questions that somebody asked me, like, in one of the sessions I was taking at the university, and they said, "So you build the best model and then you get promoted, right?" And I was like, "No, that's not even, and then once I remember a case, now this might be slightly like a digression, but once I just searched for a syntax, like on Google, and the person was like, "You are a data scientist, shouldn't you know everything?" And I'm like, "No." Like, everybody is a Stack Overflow and like a syntax and stuff. But so he was like, "So what do you do at work then?" And so I was like, "Well, we drive the business through data science." So it's like a slightly different ballgame than just having all of the syntax memorized, and then you just know like all the algorithms like the back of your hand, and then nobody hands you like one single CSV file to work with. So I feel that so I feel that there was like a lack of the industry perspective, like in general. So that is what I have tried to build through PrepVector.
That's awesome. Yeah, just making it like actually applied and reflective of the real world. Just like your training data should be reflective of your... No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I remember I was actually helping a dude with his resume a few months ago, and I asked him like, quantify the impact on your resume, and he came back and he quantified it with like increased precision and accuracy in F1 by XXX, and I was like, oh no, like, I mean, you can keep that on there if you want. It's probably just taking up space, but no, like, what do you do with it for the business? He's like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Like how much revenue, or how much it doesn't have to be revenue. It's like, how much time did you save, or like, what'd you automate out?
So I feel that this is a major like mindset shift, especially from those coming from academia.
Totally.
Because they have to continuously work on building new algorithms, or working like on improving the accuracy of the model, like you said. So like a lot of focus is on that. But when you work in the industry, the focus shifts from just building a great model to what does it do for me, right? Like, what does it do for the business? How does it drive your key metrics? Or how does it drive revenue for the company? Like, or what is the implication of it? How can we scale this? So these conversations become much more important. So I feel when people transition from academia to industry, this is a major mindset shift for a lot of them to go through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like a lot of your like industry experience for sure has influenced your kind of teaching style at PrepVector. Have you found like the opposite direction at all? Like, has PrepVector influenced your leadership style at Google or anything?
Yeah, I think so in a lot of ways, because it's really hard to segregate your personality completely into two different buckets. So I feel like I've picked nuggets from each one of those. So I feel like PrepVector, because it was something I started building from scratch, it was not like we had any resources at hand. There were no team members to support me. Like I was just by myself, and I was like, how do I put everything together, which I have learned like in all these years and the challenges which I faced? How can I structure that better and help other people, right? So that was the thought process which I started with. So like I said, I didn't have any, infra, like I didn't have any resources. I didn't have a team, which is not typically the case when you work like in a, like in a tech company, like, or any company in general. You have access to people, you have access to resources and all of that. So I felt that maybe like trying to build a vision ground up is something that I definitely learned at PrepVector. How do you start with nothing? Start with just an idea in your head and then drive that forward. How do you convert that from an idea in your head to idea on a paper, and then just execute that going forward? So driving that vision, so first I would say building that vision in the first place, and then driving it forward is something I've definitely learned at PrepVector. And I have seen that has also improved my working style, in the company, because now I understand the thought process behind the vision. I go through OKRs, I read them and all of that, which I was not doing previously. For me, OKRs, so maybe early on in my career didn't matter so much, but now obviously they matter so much more. But I also understand the thought process which is going behind it. So, so yeah, I would say that is one major shift that has happened. The other major shift is also I would say context switching, because at PrepVector you are leading. So one day you're doing marketing, the other day you're doing all the legal and the accounting work, the third day you are coaching people, the fourth day you are trying to build new initiatives for you and your team. So I feel like it spans a wide variety of activities. And so I have to context switch a lot. So I was able to leverage a lot of that in my role, and that has just shaped my thinking. So now even when I have a small 30-minute slot, I can quickly switch context and just focus all of my attention and time on the task.
That's pretty awesome. I think you're talking about a very important point. When someone has a side hustle, or when whatever they're doing, if they are the builder in that area, it just brings you this new type of mentality, right?
Yeah.
That if you own something fully end to end, it's as simple as actually I doing content creation as well for the, for 80, 90 days. All I did every single day, I went and did a post. And that just added a totally new skill set, because I own it. I know, I look at metric, what is moving it, what's the reason behind it, what's working, what's not working, what time of the day works for me. You just build this entire new skill set that comes from owning something end to end, right? And this could be something that people even studying can start doing it. Maybe start an analytics club, or maybe just have a student podcast in your own college, whatnot, right?
Just and that ties to our point about the leadership as well, which we talked about earlier. That gives you so much more exposure, and you develop that leadership skill too.
Yeah, I kind of forces you to have that product manager kind of mindset. And for me, I think that's when I think about what a data scientist is, I'm well, you're a product manager, but you're kind of doing a little less, you're doing somewhat less of some of the stakeholder stuff, and you're doing more of the analysis part. Product managers are doing analysis too. But that's some of the best data scientists I see are people who are basically very technical product managers. Also, some of the best product managers I see are also product managers who used to be data scientists or analysts. I'm yeah, you're awesome. I want to work with you.
So it's basically the ownership mentality, right? You act
that
like you're an owner, and that's what product managers are. They are there's a good slogan about them that they are CEOs of their own little product, right? So if we act like that, if a data scientist act so this is what I keep telling my team as well every time, any planning, anything, I'm think you are the head of monetization, and what is the problem there that you think, that needs to be solved for, which is data problem, right? Probably product managers look at all the problems, but you could probably take a problem and solve the data side part of it. And that's you thinking like a product manager, thinking basically like an owner and going after it. And that goes back to the point, Manisha, of being proactive, right?
Yeah.
One of the biggest things that helps you move up in the ladder. It could be in the ladder of an IC, it could be in the ladder of a manager, but being proactive, coming up with challenges that you would like to solve yourself, irrespective of where you are in your career, as an intern, as a new grad who joins a company, or like, forget about if you did not do that so far, but you could start doing it today.
Yeah, that is true. So I feel that you can start taking these little steps, and then that's what I started doing with PrepVector, because like I said, I started with just an idea in my head and I didn't know what direction to go. I just started putting my brains together and so coming up with a plan and started executing it. So that helped me develop that, ownership skill, definitely. But at the same time, it also helped me understand how to build a vision for the team, for your brand, and then how to work through it.
Let's say, Manisha, there are these people that want to get into data science, right? And data science, this is a whole new topic altogether, but data science could be multiple things. It could be product analytics, or probably two main things, I would say. It could be product analytics. It could be more ML focused kind of role. Whatever is the track that they are interested in, how do you think they should approach from here? They're interested, they want to go about into this career. Probably they are a graduate, or maybe they're shifting industries. They're already working somewhere. So I know joining PrepVector is one for sure, but can you probably talk about this, I think, bridge that we spoke about is being in academia, you wouldn't understand what the industry is about, and what do you think they could do? Probably I could start with something. I can definitely tell that go read popular big tech blogs, right?
Yeah.
Look at how they solve the problems, right? Go to Uber's blog, go to Facebook's blog, go to DoorDash's blog, all these areas, they all have data science blogs, data blogs especially. And look at what they're doing for experimentation. Look at what they've done for, modeling. What did they do for data infra and whatnot? So that would be my suggestion. Would love to know both Sean and Manisha, both of your suggestions, actually.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And I resonate that so much because actually, I just launched the data science community at PrepVector. And this is what one of the things that we are planning to do is actually read those blogs, because I know those blogs are such a goldmine and people don't even look at it so often, right? So what we are planning to do in the community is basically get these people together, those who are interested in learning how things are done in the industry, and then go through their tech blogs or some of their research papers and then to try to learn from those. So I think that is a great idea that you have suggested. So I highly recommend people doing that. So, but I do want to mention a caveat there that for somebody who's starting in data science, those can feel a little bit more advanced, right? So if you already have some experience in data science, or have worked through a couple of projects, then you can go and start reading those. But if you are somebody who's just starting with data science, then those blogs can feel a little bit more advanced. So for those people, I would suggest go build something pick up a Kaggle case study and start building a machine learning model, right? So I would suggest starting there, and then transitioning over to reading these industry case studies, because they can get too technical too quickly. Or you can join the community where we'll be doing all the reading and giving you all the nuggets of information. Something else that they can do, and I feel that this is also a trend which I have noticed in data science, is that data science, is getting increasingly merged with software engineering. So I feel like somebody who has really good programming skills can stand out as an early data scientist, right? So a lot of the data scientists, which I see, they're pretty scrappy with their code. They can code a little bit, but maybe they're not very strong with it. So if you really hone up your programming skills, you can actually get a chance to stand out as well. So I feel so this is a trend which we are seeing, which was not there before, because data scientists were working in silos. There was a central data science team in a lot of companies. But now what we are seeing is that data science is being embedded within the product team. So you can have, let's say, a retention team, which has a data science team. You can have a monetization team, which can have a small data science team within that, or however your company is structured, maybe by different product areas or maybe by the customer lifecycle. You have data scientists which are embedded within these product teams, which means you are working much more closely with your PMs and also your engineering teams. So if you can really start developing that mindset of programming for an early career data scientist, that can be very important. As you step into more of the mid-career, then I feel that those tech blogs can actually add a lot of value and then they can actually give you that exposure of how things are being done in the industry. Like Shravya mentioned, so go read an Uber blog, go read a Facebook blog. So blog, like I feel, so that DoorDash blogs are pretty good too, like Instacart blogs, right? Like, and I know Grammarly has some too.
Yes,
so definitely
yes,
go and
yes.
read about those.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, when someone has interest in the data science field, first build the technical capabilities to understand what's written
Yeah.
in these blogs and then go read the blog so that you understand
Yeah.
what they're talking about, right? Definitely
Yeah.
makes total sense. So for the people that probably are already in, in some sort of a data field, but they are not in tech, how do you think they should approach, getting into tech? Like I
Yeah.
know you yourself actually moved from
Yeah.
non-tech to tech, right? So that'd be a
Yeah.
great
Like,
question. I know
yeah,
Sean
I
has
am.
great insights about it too because he's done that too. But yeah,
Yeah, like I think that this is such an important question that you asked, and I'm so glad that you touched upon it because I spent a couple of years in healthcare consulting before I moved to tech. I can tell you that data science, obviously there is a lot of overlap, but it's also different in a lot of ways, right? Like, and one of the things so that actually stood out to me was that in the tech industry, how common it was for data scientists to have the skill of A/B testing. Like this is a given. When I worked in healthcare consulting, we didn't do a lot of A/B testing. We were doing a lot of test and control observational studies, which falls under causal inference, but it was not online experimentation because we were promoting healthcare drugs. So we were running these randomized control trials on like a group of people, like assessing the impact of giving free samples to a doctor, stuff like that. So there were a lot of causal inference based like observational studies, but not so much of A/B testing. So I felt like data science was slightly different in that way. Also, the way things are measured in tech is slightly different because you work very closely with your PMs. So you have to measure the impact of your product, be very comfortable with how to define and measure metrics. But that was slightly different from how things worked in healthcare. So I'm so glad that you touched upon that point because when I was moving, like I said, like I struggled with it a little bit. The first thing was just knowing what skills are important for the other industry.
Yeah.
makes sense. Yep.
I was not aware of that at first, but like as I did more research about it, I was like, oh, like I read through the JDs and I was like, so wait, everybody's asking for A/B testing. So I think that is a skill which I had to pick up over time. So I actually took up some of the projects like at workplace intentionally, which involved working more with metrics and working more with these causal inference studies than I was doing before. So that was one of the ways to develop. The other way was just to like talk to more people who were working in the industry and get like a sense about it. So I did reach out to a lot of people who were working where I wanted to work, like some places like or some roles which were very interesting to me. So I reached out to some of those people very proactively, and then I worked through those skills. I watched a lot of conference talks, a lot of YouTube videos, but I can tell you that there was like no one structured course which I can find, and that's why I built PrepVector because there was like information which was pretty scattered. So I felt like I wish that there was something which would give me everything in one place, and that's what I started building. So, but yeah, I would suggest that do that research about the other, industry. Highlight the skills which are common. So leverage your skills which can be transferred, or less like transferable skills. So for example, your programming skills, your expertise in Python or R or SQL, like this is pretty transferable, right? Your experience of building machine learning models was also very transferable. So I had worked on a lot of machine learning models, and like I was working on how to derive actionable insights and drive business. So of course, that was a skill that was transferable too. So my leadership and management skills, I was managing a team at my previous company, so that skill was pretty transferable. So, but at the same time, I had to invest in learning new skills, specifically more of diving more into product sense, and A/B testing was something that I actively worked on. So that like I have a much deeper understanding of what is A/B testing. Like I had a very high level understanding of sleep, but really diving into the nitty-gritties and the challenges and what constitutes a robust design and all those stuff, I had to learn so that I can showcase that when I talk to hiring managers.
Love that. Love that. So let me summarize. So basically, if you are a data scientist in non-tech and you're trying to move into tech, the first most important is research. Try to go look at job descriptions of all these data scientist jobs in tech and understand what's the common theme. Like Manisha realized her common theme was A/B testing. And the second one, and talk to people. The second part of research is talking to the people who work there to understand the nitty-gritties of the details. The most important one is the second one, I would say, is the skill that you talked about, is identify the transferable skills. You are already a bag of lot of great information. You might already know a lot of great information, right? So knowing what they are, like programming, like, if you're managing people, managerial skills, it could be building models, it could be statistics, like all of those are transferable skills. And the third important thing is understanding the gaps between what you found in the research and your skills and building them, right? And working on them. For data science product especially, you need to build product sense and, metrics related stuff. To be honest, knowing about product managers and actually looking at some books around cracking the PM interview and things like that would help you build that skill. And then you'll probably make it a lot more easier into getting into product. Into the tech in the data science product space.
Here's another thing I would say, is that when a lot of people transition industries, they have a mindset that they probably don't know a lot of stuff, and they need to bridge that gap, which is true partially, but they kind of overlook the fact that they might already possess a lot of skills, which can actually, have a great deal of impact, so they can contribute. One of those skills for me was, because I worked in healthcare consulting, I was very comfortable leading meetings, taking meetings. I was very comfortable simplifying complex problems. So I was working with a variety of different stakeholders. So stakeholder management was something that came easy to me. But a lot of the people in the other industries might not have that exposure, right? So I would say, identify those skills that you are really good at, your strength areas, and double down on it. And this was one of the skills that actually made me stand out, because a lot of the people who were working in the tech did not have that exposure, but I did, coming from a consulting.
Yeah, actually, I also worked in consulting before I moved to tech, and same thing. You're on these client engagements, but you're constantly trying to sell them on having another engagement with you. So you have to very impactful decks and presentations, and it is a lot of stakeholder management stuff. So that was one of the things when I eventually came into tech, where it's I don't know how the product team model really works here yet. There's definitely a lot of gaps I had to learn about that and read some books on. But I did know how to at least figure out what do people want, and how do I relay information to them in a very simple way that will get them to come back for more, I guess.
So I guess really that is one skill that consulting makes you develop, is being able to simplify really complicated topics, and present them in a nice way. Because I was working with a lot of presentation decks, like Sean. So that did involve simplifying a lot of things and being able to convey that information in a clear manner to your stakeholders. And I feel that was a skill that really stood out for me.
That's one of the most, I would say, skills that I look out for when I hire people. Simplifying a complicated problem just tells us that they know it so much, they know the concept so much that they could make it so simple that they could, convey it easily. And communication, which I'm hearing, presentation and communication is the biggest skill that you'd need as a data scientist, especially presenting data. So,
But this is actually a question from LinkedIn. One of your followers asked, what's the most underrated skill in data science that professionals should focus on?
That's a great question, actually. Kudos to them asking that question.
Yeah, so what's the most, underrated skill?
I'm thinking about it too, actually.
Yeah, this is a good one.
That's a good question, yes.
So I would say that I think this is a skill that becomes more and more important, is that you talk through different altitudes with people. So being able to talk about the same thing at different altitudes. For example, let's say you're talking with one of your research teams, right? And then they really want to dig deep into the data. But the same project, you go and talk to your skip level or your VP. They don't want to know about it. So the same project, but different attitudes, right? So the ability to zoom out of the project and then zoom into the project, like, and being able to do that multiple times, across different meetings and across different stakeholders is, I feel, something that not a lot of people talk about, but I think it's really important. So you cannot go and present something to your VP and talk about all the things you've done in the background without touching upon how this particular project meets their OKRs or how it drives the business or what's the next step or, stuff like that. Talk in that way to your research team, right? So you have to talk at a very high altitude to some of the stakeholders, but with some of the other stakeholders, so just even within your same team, you have to really go deeper into the project. So I would say that altitude and, maybe I should find a better word for it, but zooming out and zooming in on the project is something that's highly underrated.
Yeah, that's really good.
What do you think, Sean? Can you think of something?
Yeah, I was thinking, I think prioritization, protecting your time and saying no.
Mm-hmm.
It's especially earlier in your, I mean, you want to say yes to a lot of stuff earlier in your career or when you get a new job, but at the end of the day, you kind of got to pick okay, I'm going to say yes to these very small things to nurture a relationship here, but I got to say no to these other things because at the end of the day, it's not going to help the business as much as this other stuff. It's not even just about helping me. It's just it's not going to help my team or even my stakeholders if I work on this thing compared to if I work on something else. But it's also it's a hard balancing act, protecting your time and you have to have leaders and stakeholders who are really understanding of that. But the way I usually do it is it's kind of like we were talking about in the beginning, understand everyone's goals and values. And then when you're prioritizing with their goals and values in mind, my job's to make my stakeholders successful. And if they're asking for stuff that's not going to make them successful and I can explain that in a way, then everyone usually gets on the same side. But it's hard in different companies. Really big companies where it's coming from many levels ahead of you or on top of you, can be hard to prioritize that stuff.
So this is so important, especially because data scientists, some of the teams can get a lot of inputs from different teams and they can be pulled into a lot of different directions.
Yeah.
So I would say +1 to that.
One thing I have. Thank you, Manisha. So I was thinking is actually creativity. I think the art side of data science is less talked about in general, any engineering, right? Because I really think the way you present, the type of story you tell, your data storytelling, there is an art part of it. It's pretty hard to for it to get attention and for it to talk about it in interviews and things like that. And there's less, there's less to measure it too. Probably that makes it harder as well. So I probably think that as one of the things, creativity and art in the data science.
I think I agree with you because data science is kind of an art because you can draw different conclusions from the same data.
Yes.
There's a science part to it, but there's also an art part to it. Totally.
I think science get a lot more attention. It gets a lot of attention for sure. Art, I think, should get its needed attention that it does not get. And I think it sets you apart for sure. Especially if you are that person that comes up with that creativity and intuitive angle, it definitely has its place, but less people talk about it. So I'd rate that.
So yes, interesting. Shout out to the person who asked that question. You made us all think.
Awesome. I think we are almost at the end of the podcast, right? Any last thoughts, Manisha, before we end, for the viewers who are listening to you?
So this was an amazing podcast, and I hope that you had some few takeaways from it. So thanks a lot, Stravya, and thanks a lot, Sean, for hosting it. It's such a pleasure. Hope that everybody who is listening to this podcast, you were able to get insights from how data scientists can drive their own career to leadership. We touched upon a lot of things. So if there's anything that you would like to know specifically, so just write it down in your comments, and we'll definitely get back to you. You can also reach us on LinkedIn. We all are pretty active there. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, it was really great chatting with you. You just closed us out, so we don't even have to do that now. Just like and subscribe. Check out Manisha on LinkedIn. Check out PrepVector.
Thank you, Manisha. And like Manisha said, so if you have any questions around what we spoke, please ask them in comments and we can get Manisha again. And please like and subscribe, guys. And thank you so much, Manisha. It was amazing chatting with you today.